Welcome to a brand new episode of Point of View. I'm Pastor Josh Barnes, and you can tell that I am growing the beard if you are watching online rather than listening on the radio. But if you're listening on the radio, we want to thank you for joining us. Anyway, but yeah, no, this is my Christmas beard or Easter beard. It's my Christmas Easter beard. So the last time I shave in the winter is at Christmas, and then I shave again at Easter, and that's like my thing, right? So I like grow a beard between Christmas and Easter. So everybody has their thing. That's my thing. Anyway, this is the show where we're unashamed to look at political issues from a biblical point of view. We also throw in their social issues, cultural issues, theological issues, just whatever. We do that from a biblical point of view because Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, and he said the Bible's true. And if the Bible is true, then we can't be right about issues unless we are biblical about those issues, or at least unless we can't be right if we disagree with the Bible. So that's the show. So last week we talked about some of the things that people say are fulfillments of prophecy in our modern era, right? We talked about two things specifically, really, and that is the beast that's in front of the new statue that's in front of the UN building that is a leopard with eagle's wings. Is that a fulfillment of prophecy? Is that something related to prophetic events in the Bible? Because a lot of people touted it as if it was, without actually having ever opened the Bible and read any prophecies. They said, well, this feels like prophecy to me. And so we actually walked through and said, is that the case? And actually, no. We comparing it to the beasts in the book of Revelation and the book of Daniel. It's actually different. It's not really this. There's some vague similarities, but clearly not close enough to say this is some kind of sign of the times. The other thing we talked about, well, we tried to lay out last week just a basic understanding of what the Bible does say about the end times, just in general. There are a lot of different views from a lot of different theologians on how it's all going to work out and all that kind of stuff. We weren't trying to say that our view is necessarily correct, though certainly I believe my view is correct of how it's all going to play out, but just an overview of the things that are said to happen. And I did give you the structure of the timeline in which I believe it's going to take place. And most people agree with that general timeline, although they don't all agree with me on specifics that I did not get into. Anyway, we also talked about the mark of the beast, right? And a lot of people have said that these vaccine passports that have been suggested and proposed might be a precursor to the mark of the beast. And so we asked the question, is that possible? Well, we talked about the mark of the beast and how really it's a mark. It's something visible. And it's not about vaccines. It's about worshiping the beast. It's actually a proof so that they can tell that you are genuinely worshiping this false deity. Otherwise, you're going to die if you can't prove that you worshiped it. So it's really not about accidentally taking the mark of the beast. You'd have to worship the beast to do so. But so we talked about that, and then Juan, the producer, sent me this TikTok video that I thought would be good to respond to. Let me show you this. This is a TikTok video from a guy. Now, let me give you his name here before we jump into it. His name is, here we go. It is Ben, and his name on TikTok is Blue Shirt Ben. BlueShirtBen. Blue Shirt Ben. So just look for @BlueShirtBen on TikTok. And he put out a video some time ago. I'm not sure how old it is. But it says that these are 5 prophecies that are being fulfilled right now. Like, 5 prophecies that we're seeing being fulfilled in our modern day. And so my producer said, Juan, he said, hey, look, is this true? Are these prophecies being fulfilled? What do you think about this? And I said, I'll make a video about it. How about that? That way I don't have to text Juan back. I don't want to have to text him and give him answers to stuff. So I figured I'd give everyone the answer because someone else has the same question. We're gonna review his video, 5 biblical prophecies he says are happening right now, and we'll just say true or false. Now, When we examine these things, we're going to have to examine them in two ways. First, we're going to examine them and say, is is his claim true that this event is happening? And then number two, is this event a fulfillment of the prophecy he claims it's fulfilling? And so we'll have to examine both of those. But you may find that he's more true than you would think. But also not as true as others might think. So I'm going to be a little middle of the road here. Let me play the video from Ben.
Here are 5 biblical prophecies that are coming true. Like and follow if you want to hear more that's going on in our world.
Okay, so he puts out five. I don't know if you caught him. We'll go through them more slowly. He put out 5 slides of prophecies that he says are taking place and coming true right now. So let's dive into them. The first one is this one. I'll pull it up on the screen. Revelation 16:12. By the way, if you're listening on the radio, I just realized how awkward that video must have been for you because there's no audio really for it except for music. I'm reading the slides to you now, so you didn't miss anything. Okay, the first one is that he claims that the Euphrates River is drying up. The Euphrates River is drying up. Revelation 16:12 is where he says there's a prophecy that the Euphrates River will dry up. Now, he puts up a picture here, and he doesn't really give a lot of evidence for it. So the first thing I asked when he put this up is this true? Is the Euphrates River really drying up? And surprisingly, there is some truth to this statement that the Euphrates River is drying. It's not dried. It's not necessarily ever going to dry completely. It just is more dry, like it has less water now than it used to have. And the question is why, right? Because if the biblical prophecy is that, and we're going to talk about the biblical prophecy in a moment, but if the biblical prophecy is that the Euphrates River is going to dry completely, and the Euphrates River is losing water, but it will then gain water again later, it's not fulfilling the biblical prophecy, right? It would have to be losing water in a way that can't be stopped and is going to eventually dry up. That's not really the way in which the Euphrates River is losing water. I did some research on this, some cursory stuff. What I can find out there says that yes, the Euphrates is losing water. It's really a twofold problem. Number one, there's a lot of droughts in the Middle East right now, which are not entirely uncommon, just a lot have come all at one time recently. So this is normal. The Euphrates River has shrunk in droughts before. Not a big deal. Now, there's another reason that the Euphrates River is lower than it really has been in a long time, if not in recorded history. And that is because now upriver from Babylon, from the historic Babylon, or from Iraq, there are I think are 7 different dams that are holding water for other countries, and this is hurting Iraq because Iraq is downstream from these other countries, and so if they build dams to keep the water there, then Iraq has less water, which means that the Euphrates River in Iraq is drying more than it has in the past because there's drought and because there are man-made dams. So is the Euphrates River drying up completely? Not really, because once the droughts go back to a normal cycle, then it won't dry up. I mean, you'll have water again. And it's a man-made. So if you look at the prophecies of things that will happen in the future with great earthquakes and everything, you probably have dams that will split open. The water will be back there. So I don't know that this would be any kind of fulfillment of prophecy. But let's look at the exact of the prophecy and see if this could fulfill the prophecy. Okay, so we're going to go to this. This is in Revelation chapter 16. In Revelation chapter 16, we talked about this last week, the different judgments that come on the earth. And in my view, this would be in the last 3.5 years before Jesus returns. There's supposed to be these vial judgments, these vials of the wrath of God that are just poured out on the earth. And one of the vials is that the Euphrates River is dried up. So let me pull this up again for you so you can see the verse that he used. It's at Revelation 16:12. I'm going to read it with a little bit more context here. Revelation 16:12, and I read from the King James Version. It says this: "And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared." And verse 11 had the previous verse, verse 10. "And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain, and blasphemed the God of heaven because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deed." So what we have here in Revelation is this series of judgments. In the first few judgments, there are sores and pains that are given to the people. In judgment number 5, there is this darkness that comes on the people who are following the beast, who have the mark of the beast, right? And this darkness comes on them, and they curse God because of the darkness and because of the sores and because of the pains. You say, why do I say that? Because I'm showing that these are successive. They have to be one after the other. Because in number 5, there's reference back that people are cursing God for the pains that happened in the first few judgments. So you have judgments that are happening one after the other, which means that the Euphrates River drying up, being the 6th judgment, takes place after the mark of the beast. It takes place after these great sores are given to all the people who have the beast, who have the mark of the beast. This great darkness is given to the kingdom of the beast. So this is something that isn't going to take place now. You aren't going to see this prophecy fulfilled now. Someone might say, well, we see it start to be fulfilled, and then it will be completely dried up during that time. But that doesn't make any sense. If the Euphrates River is almost dry by the time, it's just slowly getting drier and drier and is almost dry by this time, then the kings of the east could have crossed at any time. The point is, in Revelation 16, that it dries up to an extent in a very rapid way so that now these armies from the east can actually cross easily to attack Jerusalem. And probably the fact that they're bound by this river and can't just fly across is because of all the earthquakes and natural disasters that God has brought on the earth during that time, making it hard for them to have less capability technologically. And so they're having to cross rivers like old school days. But anyway, the point is that this judgment in Revelation 16 can't take place until after several other judgments take place. It's interesting that the Euphrates River is drier now than it has been in the past, but it's not really a fulfillment of prophecy, right? It's an interesting thing to see, but not technically a fulfillment of prophecy. Okay, the next one is this. We've dealt with this one before, and that is that there's a beast in front of the UN building. But the Bible never prophesies that there's going to be a beast in front of the UN building, or that there's going to be an idol or a statue of a beast in front of the building that houses the new Roman Empire. None of this is actually in the Bible. The Bible does talk about a beast that looks like a leopard, but it has 7 heads, 10 horns, and no wings. And there's another beast that looks like a leopard that has wings, but it has 4 heads and 4 wings, not 2 wings and 1 head. And that one with the wings, the leopard with the wings, actually represented the Greek Empire, not the future empire of the beast, of the Antichrist. So it's just it really doesn't compute. It really doesn't fit. That's not a fulfillment of prophecy. So we're running 1 and 1. There's one that is actually true, like the Euphrates River is actually drying up, but it's not really a fulfillment of prophecy. Interesting to note. There's another one now that we've discussed, the beast in front of the UN. That's really not a fulfillment of prophecy, really in any way at all. Here's the next one, and that is the moon is starting to turn red. Did you know this? The moon is starting to turn red, and of course the Bible says that the sun will be dark and the moon will turn to blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. Jesus said this as well in Matthew chapter 24. The question is, if the moon is turning red, is this a fulfillment of the prophecy of the coming of Christ? And the answer, I think, is no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. Okay, let's talk about the facts about the moon turning red. It is true from the research that I've done that the moon is red and let me say this right. The moon is rust. It has rust on it. Okay. They have found some spots of rust. You can see actually in this picture, if you're seeing it, right up there at the poles of the moon. And basically, the reason is because they found water content on the moon, but they hadn't found a lot of iron rocks on the moon. So they didn't expect to find rust on the moon, even though they had found water on the moon. But now they're finding that the poles of the moon have iron content there, which is able to be rusted by water over long periods of time. So what they found then is that there is actual rust at the poles of the moon, which doesn't just happen overnight, right? It's not like the moon just started rusting and all of a sudden it's turning red like this picture. Actually, you can't even see it with the naked eye, but there is some reddening at the poles of the moon where the iron content is, and this has been that way for a very long time. As a matter of fact, it was already rusting thousands of years ago when the prophecy was made that the sun would be darkened and the moon turned to blood, which means that the moon isn't any different now than it was when the prophecy was made, but yet the prophecy says the moon has to turn to blood. So this is not anything different than what happened when the prophecy was given, and nothing has changed. Nothing has turned. Okay? And again, moon turning to blood is going to happen when there's lots of other terrible judgments coming down on the earth around the same time. So, yeah, this is not the moon turning to blood, although maybe the Lord will, use a rusty looking moon to fulfill this prophecy, but that's not what we're seeing right now. Okay, so sorry. So far, this guy's claims about prophecy being fulfilled, about biblical prophecy being fulfilled in our modern day, are falling short, and have basically turned out to be nothing more than clickbait. But let's look at the next one. The next one is actually really interesting. I did a lot of research on this because not a lot, but more research on this than the others, just because it was fascinating to me. And that is, he claims that the Dead Sea is coming alive again with fresh water. And Ezekiel 47 talks about a sea, probably almost definitely the Dead Sea, that is made alive with fresh water. Oh my goodness. The problem is, okay, let's look at the facts. Is the Dead Sea coming alive with fresh water? Well, fresh water has always fed the Dead Sea. Okay, this is nothing new. There's always been the Jordan River that feeds the Dead Sea. The Jordan River is fresh. The Dead Sea is not. Okay. And then there's always been springs underneath the Dead Sea, really, that spring up fresh water into the Dead Sea, and then the water dies, okay? This is how the Dead Sea maintains its volume. Actually, the Dead Sea is losing volume, and has been for a while. But what this article seems to be referring to, that the Dead Sea comes alive with fresh water, is sinkholes that have opened up next to the Dead Sea of water, just like the springs under the Dead Sea that spring out fresh water into the Dead Sea. Now, next to the Dead Sea, these springs have opened up with fresh water, And in those springs, next to the, like, I'm saying next to the Dead Sea, like, within a few feet. I mean, we're talking about 20, 30 feet from the coast of the Dead Sea. You've got springs, sinkholes that have opened up with springs of fresh water that have come in from under the ground. And in those springs, there are fish, living fish. Okay? But if those sinkholes connect to the Dead Sea if they ever do, they will become salty and the fish will die. Okay? So we aren't seeing the Dead Sea being healed. We're seeing waters around the Dead Sea that feed the Dead Sea have fish. But when it connects to the Dead Sea, the fish die. So we're not seeing the waters of the Dead Sea be healed. Okay? Let me read you this passage in Ezekiel. Not the whole thing, just a portion of it. Ezekiel 47. Because he's actually measuring the temple that will exist in future end times things when Jesus comes back. And he measures the temple. And after he measures the temple, there in Ezekiel 47 verse 8, it says, "Then he said unto me, These waters issue out toward the east country, and go down into the desert, and go into the sea, which being brought forth into the sea, the waters will be healed." Now, it's interesting that the waters issue toward the east and go down into the desert and into the sea. Now, he's measuring the temple, and out of the temple is flowing waters, okay? From the temple, from Jerusalem to the east, the next sea is the Dead Sea in the desert, okay? So he's probably talking about the Dead Sea. That's why the translation that this guy uses says when it enters the Dead Sea. But here's the thing. There has to be a temple, and the water has to come from the temple for this prophecy to be fulfilled. There is no temple in Jerusalem, and there's certainly no water flowing from the temple to the Dead Sea. So this prophecy can't be fulfilled. It is a prophecy that will be fulfilled when Jesus returns, but isn't fulfilled now. Okay, so this is, again, an interesting thing that is happening, but it's not healing the Dead Sea, and it's not fulfilling this prophecy, because sometimes people find things that are like neat coincidences, and they say, fulfillment of prophecy, this is so exciting, and they just really want to be excited by fulfillment of prophecy. Trust me, prophecy will be fulfilled, and it will be exciting when it happens, but don't try to make everything into a fulfillment of prophecy, because it's not. All right, we need to be truthful about things, and this is just not truthful. So yeah, a little bit of study on this breaks this down. Now this fifth one actually is definitely a fulfillment of prophecy, but it's not anything new. It's not like a brand new thing that, oh my goodness, this prophecy is being fulfilled. It's been being fulfilled for thousands of years. But here's the last one that he gives: the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. And he writes on here, 1 Timothy 4:1 talks about the Spirit clearly says that in latter times some will abandon the faith and follow deceiving spirits and things taught by demons. Such teachings come through hypocritical liars whose consciences have been seared as with a hot iron. Now you may not understand what's being said here. What he's saying here is that there is prophecy about wicked heresies and evil things that come in the last days. Okay? And he points out that this is happening today. The Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. Let me read you the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. The first, just if you go to the website for the Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi, that's a mouthful, which is forhumanfraternity.org, Abrahamic-family-house. Forhumanfraternity.org. Just look up Abrahamic family house in Abu Dhabi. The first statement that's on here is the Abrahamic family house will be a beacon of mutual understanding, harmonious coexistence, and peace among people of faith and goodwill. It consists of a mosque, church, synagogue, and educational center to be built on Saadiyat Island. So it's a mosque, it's a church, it's a synagogue, and a school, educational center. Mosque, that's Muslim. A church, that's Christian, or supposedly. And a synagogue, that's Jewish, right? What do these three have to unify over? Now, true Christianity and true Judaism should agree, right? Because they're both worshiping and serving the Messiah, or they claim to, right? So true Christianity and true Judaism should agree. But where do you have a mosque and a synagogue together, or a mosque and a church together? Muslims literally believe that it's heresy to say that God would have a son. They do not believe Jesus is God or that he is the Messiah. This is the essential doctrine of Christianity. We cannot unite with Muslims unless they become Christians, unless they change their doctrine, which they're not going to do. So this is heresy. The problem is, though, that these passages of Scripture, let me read you just a little piece of 2 Timothy. Because in 2 Timothy 3, there's also a mention of these. This know that in the last days perilous times shall come, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection. What does that mean? That means this is the way people are and have been ever since the time of Christ. Since Jesus died on the cross, we have been in the last days for the last 2,000 years. Not like the end of the last days. We've just been in the last age of men before Jesus returns. And in this last age, yes, these things, these wicked, terrible things do take place. 1 Timothy is the one that he references. In 1 Timothy 4, Paul says, Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Listen, Ignatius, the church father who lived right after the apostles died, wrote and said that we are in the last days right now. Why? Because he could already see all of these things taking place. This is definitely a sign of the times, but it's not a new sign of the times. It's a sign of the times that's been around for thousands of years. We have been dealing with false doctrine and evil. Evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But we know that this does not mean that the end is here. It just means, yes, we know this is going to happen. It's going to be the case. We keep doing what's right. We keep going forward, and Jesus will take care of everything when he comes and rules the earth. And so that's what we look for. We win in the end. We're not worried. We're not frustrated. We're not concerned. We know everything's going to be taken care of when Jesus comes back. And so we're looking for him, not for some way out of the mess. We're looking for him, and he's the way out of the mess, if you will. And that's all the time we have for the day. If you are not a believer in Jesus Christ, we hope that you will change your mind and become a true believer in him. Join us next time on Point of View.